Those with spoiled siblings, when did your parents realize they terribly messed up? I have a brother who is about 6 years younger than me. He was excessively coddled by my parents due to being diagnosed with high-functioning autism at the age of 4. Other than that, he seems very normal, just unbelievably spoiled. He would use his privileged position to get his way most of the time. And by most, I mean nearly all the time. Whatever I had, he also had to have, resulting in us having duplicates of almost everything except shared items. Anything he had that I didn't, he'd rub in my face however he could. When I was 11, I pleaded with my parents for a 3DS for my 12th birthday. I got one, but then I was told to lend it to my brother whenever he wanted it, or else they would take it away from me, which happened a lot. When my aunt witnessed my parents forcibly taking my 3DS for my brother during one of her visits, she let loose on them for such blatant favoritism. They returned my 3DS immediately, then blamed me for the situation after my aunt left. They didn't make me give it to my brother again. Instead, a few days later, my parents bought another 3DS as a surprise gift for him. On several occasions, including mine and other people's birthdays, my brother would throw a tantrum because the party wasn't entirely about him. He would outright state that he was upset because he wasn't receiving gifts or getting to blow out the candles. My parents learned they couldn't enable his behavior at those parties and were actually kicked out of a few for attempting to do so. As a result, other kids stopped inviting him to their birthday parties. For me, my birthdays were some of the only days where I could have a focus on myself. Otherwise, my parents forced my life to revolve around my little brother. The year prior, my parents ended up paying more attention to him throughout my entire 13th birthday. They even asked if I would let my brother blow out my candles because he was upset. I refused because I wanted to blow out my own candles. At first, they called me a spoiled brat until my aunt intervened and chastised them for their favoritism. She pointed out how my brother got nearly everything just because he's autistic. My parents received no support from anyone else present, except my brother, who was still crying. Because he didn't get his way, he tried to spit on my cake out of spite. Fortunately, my aunt blocked him and scolded him until he ran to my mom in tears. My parents faced criticism from the other adults there and promised never to ask me to let my brother blow out my candles again. However, for the rest of the party, they mostly just went through the mud on. My aunt took over coordinating everything from that point on. A couple of weeks before my next birthday, my parents told me they would still get me some gifts and a small cake, but my birthday party was canceled to avoid my brother having another meltdown. I told them I couldn't believe they were doing this, and they just shrugged it off. Over the next week, I told my friends, teachers, and even my school counselor about the situation. All of them were appalled by my parents' lack of consideration. The vice principal even consoled me through social media. News reached my parents, and they grounded and gaslighted me for telling so many people. But that didn't stop me. I then started telling everyone at school that I was grounded for being upset. This worsened the situation because several parents contacted them, basically saying, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Suddenly I was ungrounded, but received no apology. My dad simply walked into my room, informed me that I was ungrounded, and walked out. I thought my party was still canceled because nobody said anything about it. My brother found it hilarious and taunted me about not getting to celebrate. However, by the end of the 2 weeks, my parents held a surprise party for me at my favorite restaurant. They claimed that was their intention all along, but I knew it wasn't true. Everyone was unhappy with them, and it showed in their interactions. They threw the surprise party to salvage their reputations. They spent a significant amount of money that day just to accommodate me. I had dinner with all my friends at my favorite restaurant with a small arcade. I even received the PlayStation 4 gaming system I had been yearning for. I could tell it was all planned and bought last minute. My dad had a look that my aunt described as looking like a moth had flown out of his wallet. My brother made a huge fuss about my surprise party, but with so many friends and parents present, my mom and dad finally put their feet down. They stopped his tantrum when he wanted to push my cake off the table. For the first time since he was a toddler, my brother received a timeout, and my mom had to stay with him. He tried several times to run toward the cake and presents, but there was always at least one adult on guard. Even my dad stood watch. My mom ended up taking my brother to a nearby McDonald's so he could play in their play area. I later heard that she spent at least an hour trying to get him to come out of the play structure. He only came out to use the bathroom, then tried to run right back in. While I still lived with them, my parents never attempted to cancel my birthday again. However, they never again put in as much effort or spent as much for the remaining 4 years I was under their roof. To the consequences of raising my brother to be so spoiled because I wasn't there to assist them with him anymore. On his recent 14th birthday, he went into a rage at our parents for not getting him a PlayStation 5. He is now currently grounded for, I don't know how long, after causing hundreds or maybe even thousands in collateral damage during his rampage. He picked up a chair and started smashing anything in front of him with it. When I last saw my parents, they appeared mentally checked out. My aunt has also informed me that they confided in her about how they wish they could send my brother to a military or boarding school in the future because they can no longer handle the monster they created. However, they are unable to afford such an option. I would be lying if I said I didn't find it ironically funny.